Hey, let's do it for the content. Mega Ran. Let's go. Let's get it. Dick Kick City. It gets gritty when Mega Ran come through. The kid gets busy. Work yourself into a shoot, but you know it's legit. Like what you like, just don't be a dick. Hey, wrestling with regret. Let's get it. Yeah. What's that scent? Maybe you should bottle it. Drink it and spray it on. Get Claude to model it. 8 years in, can't look back. Who else can make velour sweatsuits look whack? Wrestling with regret. Let's get it. Yeah.
As long as I've followed wrestling, I don't think I've ever seen one individual stir up so much emotion, or debate, or speculation, or adulation, or utter disdain across the entire fan base as one Charles Montgomery Punk. For nearly 20 years, I've heard a whole lot about CM Punk, both good and bad. From his days coming up in the independents, to his time in Ring of Honor, to his groundbreaking departure from there as he transitioned to WWE, to his constant fight for acceptance and belonging in the mainstream while remaining true to himself, to the Pipebomb, to the 434-day reign, to the walkout, to UFC, all the way to All Elite Wrestling. But even when doing nothing, the man's name has stayed on the lips of everyone who watches and observes pro wrestling. And whether you like him or you don't, what's always kept him relevant and interesting is his ability to rile up an audience or a fan base, often only with the power of his words. Considering all that's transpired in professional wrestling just in the last 6 months alone, I think it's never been more appropriate to talk about how pivotal the year 2011 was. At this time, Punk was a potential harbinger of change in WWE's creative culture, laying a slam dunk storyline at their feet. But what they ended up producing was one of the most shockingly mismanaged storylines of the last 20 years. It's time for us to look at the Summer of Punk WWE style. Let's skip all the pretense and start strong with the Pipebomb.
Hey, Colt Cabana, how you doing?
You've no doubt seen or heard this promo by now. It was at the end of the June 27th, 2011 episode of Monday Night Raw. John Cena was laying in a heap of broken table as CM Punk, former multiple-time world champion, current #1 contender, and on his way to piecing out of the new Nexus, confidently declared that he was going to beat Cena for the WWE title in his hometown of Chicago. But along the way, his promo got very real. He tore apart WWE management in a way not unlike the rallying cries of the message boards at the time. He broke the fourth wall by mentioning other places like Ring of Honor and New Japan Pro Wrestling, all while announcing that win, lose, or draw at Money in the Bank, it would be his final night in the company. I remember just how insane it was watching this promo as it was happening on Monday night. I was blown away by what I was watching here. I felt like everything that I thought I knew about WWE and like what was okay to talk about in that bubble was completely turned on its head. It was like a breath of fresh air, something that felt as raw as the show it was airing on. It broke away from the overly processed and scripted promos that had long been the norm in that company. It was a reflection of what a lot of fans have been feeling for years. It's no wonder Punk is regarded as an icon to so many. He was the first one to really challenge that whole structure in an on-air manner, giving a face to the mood that so many fans had felt. You can't understate the immense impact this one promo had with fans, as many who fell out of love with the business flocked back to it on the strength of this speech alone. To the disenfranchised, he was their hero. The term has since been watered down, as any promo with the tracest amount of venom these days is deemed a pipe bomb, but it was Punk's that really set the standard that day in 2011. It's truly shocking to think that Vince okayed Punk's entire spiel, save for a couple of edits here and there, but even more shocking, it wasn't a one and done. It kept going. Punk was soon the #1 babyface in the company for having the courage to accuse the upper management of incompetence, and was kayfabe suspended by Vince McMahon for his actions. But John Cena, good old John Cena, intervened, making a personal plea to keep the title match on for Money in the Bank. Vin Man acquiesced, but added the stipulation that Cena would be fired if he lost. Ah, the tried and true WWE formula. This story's going great, so let's pack even more story into it, because hey, more is always better. On the Go Home show, Vince himself came to Punk hat in hand in order to negotiate a new contract. From the usual, like starring in a WWE movie and getting the main event of WrestleMania, to bringing back those delicious ice cream bars. Nope, not the same thing. When Cena appeared to take up for his future opponent, Punk took this gesture with a grain of salt, accusing him of becoming everything he'd claimed to be against. It was a smart move to not only position Punk as a clear alternative to Cena and his kid-friendly ways, but to also have John take the Punker's criticisms in stride. Well, except for one.
You have become the New York Yankees.
Man, Massachusetts born and raised John Cena being compared to the New York Yankees? What a dig! It'd be more believable if he were part of the New World Order. 6 days later, Money in the Bank 2011 earned its reputation as one of the greatest B shows in company history. A stellar card topped off by one of the greatest title matches of all time in the Windy City. The match saw Vince McMahon and John Laurinaitis, who'd begun appearing as an on-air character, trying to screw Punk out of the title. But instead, the straight-edge superstar came out on top, blew a kiss to Vince, and vanished with the belt like a thief in the night. In reality, Punk had signed a new 3-year deal that same afternoon, but to the casual observer, the unthinkable had just happened. True to his word, Vince was ready to fire Mr. HLR the next night on Raw for dropping the ball. However,
I love you, Pop. And I'm sorry.
in a moment that hits a whole lot different in the summer of 2022, COO Triple H showed up to explain to Vince that his erratic behavior as of late got the board of directors all hot and bothered, leading to the H-Man ousting McMahon from the company. At the time, it was seen as a real big deal, but considering how often in kayfabe Vince had lost power, got it back, lost it again, had to share with somebody, was blown to smithereens, got crushed by part of his own set, all to keep coming back, I don't know, just fell flat to me. Plus, it would take a whole lot more than just losing a couple of stars here and there for Vince to really lose his place of power in the company, right? While all this was happening on television, the WWE champ was AWOL like he said he'd be, taking pictures of the belt in his fridge, showing up to an AAW Pro event, and heckling Triple H at the San Diego Comic-Con.
And the third part of my question is, when are you going to put Zack Ryder on television?
Was it possible? Had WWE finally done something vaguely interesting? It all seems too good to be true, but for a split second I had believed and convinced myself that, I don't know, for lack of a better phrase, that everything was going to be okay. I mean, if they really committed to this, it could have been some of the most compelling shit we'd seen in a long time. Why even do it if they weren't going to try, right? Imagine even more unsanctioned appearances. The WWE champion strolling into an ROH event or some other random indie show to defend the title. Maybe even Daniel Bryan could cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase he won and fight for it. The possibilities seemed truly endless, and for many fans like myself, it felt like it was only a matter of time before something truly amazing happened. Or that the least interesting thing possible would have happened. Guess I should have known better. 1 week after Money in the Bank, a new WWE champion was crowned. 2 of them, in fact, after Rey Mysterio beat The Miz to claim the interim championship, then lost to Cena that evening. I don't know, still more respectable than when he had the world title in 2006. But the good doctor couldn't celebrate for long when CM Punk returned after his long, drawn-out 8-day sabbatical to show off the real belt. But hey, he came out to Cult of Personality again, which was neat, right? So what happened? Did Vince suddenly lose faith in the storyline? Did he get impatient? Either way, by bringing Punk back as early as he did, it totally cut the legs out from what could have been something awesome. It could have been so easy to let Punk sit on the sidelines for a month, just a month, to allow a new champion to be crowned and for all that to grow around it before Punk came back to claim what was rightfully his. But nah, we gotta build a Summerslam, I guess. It also spoke to Vince's tendency to have every rebel not named Steve Austin ultimately abandon their ideals when the scent of a nice fat check was held under their noses. It's true the angle was based around Punk's desire for a better contract, but the abrupt way Punk just sauntered back into television softened his edges a bit. The week after Punk's return, CM got into it with the COO, and boy, things got catty.
Even when you were carrying Shawn Michaels' bags, that you like to throw your weight around and push people and tell people what to do. How many times did you say, well, you know, I just don't think he has what it takes, while you're lying in bed with your wife?
Yay!
Without the WWE, your Pipebomb and you really mean nothing. Telling me to slap every one of those silly little rotten-ass tattoos off your skinny fat ass.
Oh wait, CM Punk is supposed to be the new top babyface, right? And he just got grilled by the other top babyface wearing a suit? I don't know, did no one look at that rundown and say, oh, we are definitely shooting ourselves in the foot here? Hunter made the title unification match for SummerSlam and teased a turn of sorts by inserting himself as the special guest referee, a device used much more effectively at the same show 2 years later. It was here where Johnny Ace was reinserted back into the storyline just to remind people that he was the bad authority figure in all this, and I guess to make fans feel better about agreeing with Triple H when he would take shots at Punk. But at least Punk got to fire back every now and then.
That movie star isn't you in The Chaperone.
How was your movie, by the way? I missed it.
Mine went straight to DVD, just like yours.
Though it gave even more motivation to Punk's anti-corporate character, it also confused the hell out of the audience as to who they were supposed to be cheering for in all this. It also felt like WWE was having their cake and eating it too, allowing Punk to bring up all the company's woes, but to come off like a whiny jerk in the process. What's that I've said in the past about how acknowledging problems isn't the same as fixing them? Triple H played it mostly straight as the referee, awarding Punk the victory in a great match that did have some controversy in the end. Not sure how one can be an undisputed champion when the win can still be disputed. Suddenly, Clique member Kevin Nash showed up for the first time, and this allowed Alberto Del Rio to swoop in and cash in his briefcase, all while Triple H watched on in confusion. There seemed to be some subtext that Triple H wanted Punk to remain the champion so he could eventually mess with him, but that wrinkle obviously got dropped since someone had to look good ahead of a Mexico tour. Before we move on to the rest of the misguided fuckery this angle became, one must ask the question, what was the bigger screw job? Taking the belt off of Punk and trying to create that mythical new Latino star, or saddling Punk with Triple H's friend who hadn't had a good match since 1996? Well, both things ended up happening to the guy, and any momentum Punk had gained since late June had completely fallen off the rails. He accused Triple H of sabotaging him while the COO denied everything. Meanwhile, backstage segments sure seemed to allude that it was Laurinaitis who was pulling the strings. Oh boy, can't wait for that blow-off match between Triple H and or CM Punk versus Johnny Ace. Punk was set to face Big Daddy Culata at Night of Champions, but then it turned out Nash wouldn't be medically cleared to compete. Of course. So Triple H was named Punk's opponent instead, but not before we finally solved the mystery of who texted Kevin Nash and told him to beat up Punk at Summerslam.
The guy that sent that text from my phone to yours was you.
Yeah, you're right.
Excuse me 1 minute. Ooh. Yes, there's the text I just sent myself to say, that was a really shitty reveal. Because they couldn't have Triple H turn heel just yet as COO, they put that cockamamie explanation in its place. At Night of Champions, Kevin Nash showed up again to cost Punk the match and put some hurt on his former friend. Sure, that young kid Triple H definitely needed the win here. What a great main event segment for a pay-per-view in 2011. But it wasn't just Nash who was involved in this mess. The Miz and R-Truth got roped into it as well. Turns out that WWE needed more anti-authority guys to help muddy CM Punk's whole vibe, only these guys were out-and-out heels. The Awesome Truth would be fired the night after Night of Champions, and despite beating him at the pay-per-view, the benevolent Triple H gave Punk a shot against the new champion John Cena in a Heck in a Sec match along with Del Rio. It was at this point that Punk finally changed his tune and believed that it was Johnny Ace who was screwing with him, not Tara Ryzing. That'll keep him in his place. Burt regained the title at Heck in a Sec, pinning CM Punk to do so. It was the 6th time the championship had changed hands since Punk won it 4 months prior. Attitude Era's back, baby! After the bell, the Miz and R-Truth stormed the cell and attacked everything in sight before getting arrested. But Punk got the last word by beating them both up before being dragged off by the cops, that classic rebel. Oh wait, never mind, that was Triple H. The following night on Raw, everyone on the roster, from heels to faces, wrestlers to crew members, even the commentary team expressed their dismay for Triple H's leadership style, and the show ended with everyone walking out on the game.
You're in charge, and you're the reason all this is happening.
Oh man, what a powerful move by all those workers. How's SmackDown gonna run on Friday night? Who's gonna wrestle? Who's gonna call the show? Oh wait, never mind. SmackDown went off as scheduled in spite of what we just saw on Monday. Apparently the roster was just boycotting Raw, even though Triple H is the COO of both brands? Look, I warned you there was going to be some creative fuckery in this thing, and I did not lie to you. The walkout storyline, which by the way is hilarious when you remember that wrestling has no union, resumed the following week in what's easily one of the worst episodes of Raw of all time. Somehow not exhausted after setting up the ring, the set, and no doubt everything else having to do with the show, Triple H tried to run things with a skeleton crew of Cena, Sheamus, and Punk. It sounds like the premise of a terrible reality show, but the truth gets even stranger. Considering where these two stood at the beginning of the storyline, it was a stunning visual to see Punk wearing Triple H's blazer before doing commentary for this impromptu match.
I want you to do commentary.
Can I wear your blazer?
You can even wear my blazer.
I'm in!
This was a masterclass in burying someone while patting them on the head at the same time. And I thought I felt bad for Goldberg when he had to wear that wig. Thankfully, Vince showed back up and cut off the proceedings like these guys were Tajiri and Rhino at a house show. And even though Vince didn't have any power according to storyline, he was able to announce that H was out and J was in. Johnny, that is. In just under 4 months, they had totally burned through CM Punk's absence and return, Triple H's usurping of Vince's power, Kevin Nash and John Laurinaitis' plot to undermine CM Punk and Triple H, and oh yeah, they put the anonymous Raw GM on ice with no plan for a payoff. Making movies, pal. Laurinaitis henceforth began his campaign to mess with Punk, the rebel in the boss's jacket. By this point, Punk's list of primary antagonists had gone from Cena and Vince, to Triple H, to Kevin Nash, to one half of the Dynamic Dudes. It was a perfect metaphor for the downward trajectory of the show's quality. Punky Brewster and Trips would pair up to take on Johnny Ace's Agents of Chaos, The Awesome Truth, at Vengeance that October, and you'll never guess which guy took the fall. It was hard to see Punk eat his 4th straight pay-per-view loss, but I'll take that over that awkward-looking jackknife Triple H got. The next few weeks leading up to Survivor Series saw Punk and Ace engage in a series of segments that felt like a poor redux of Austin McMahon. Somehow, Punk complaining all the time to a strangely aloof Laurinaitis wasn't quite as compelling as the original.
Swallow your pride, stand up like a man, and tell me that you respect me.
I respect you, Funk Man. Is that all right?
Finally, at Survivor Series, Punk regained the WWE title from Del Rio. It was the beginning of what would be an historic reign for the Punker, just not in the main event, as that distinction went to Cena and The Rock versus The Awesome Truth. And though I can understand and sympathize with Punk's frustration over his place on the card that night, I would argue that a Hollywood megastar in his first match in 7 years, teaming with a future Hollywood megastar, feels like big enough of a deal to put on last. But what do I know? And with that, it seems like a good place to end this story. So why did this angle go so poorly? Well, hey, this is not Brian Zane talking to the viewers anymore. This is Brian Cheadle talking, and the reason the angle... Wait a minute. It's my channel. Nobody cuts my mic. From the moment the pipe bomb left his mouth to the end of the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, CM Punk's run felt nothing short of extraordinary, like a huge shift in the way WWE was doing business. It was as if the wrestling gods finally answered our prayers to be delivered from years of substandard booking and frustrating start-stop pushes. But all it did was set us up for an even bigger letdown. From bringing Punk back way too early, to quarreling with fellow babyface Triple H, to getting screwed over by Kevin Nash, to teaming with Triple H, to feuding with a heel authority figure who had less heat than a laptop, which I guess makes sense, because have you felt how hot those things can get? Every move after the initial title win was seemingly done with the intent to violently stamp out any excitement fans had over this rebellious star, and to produce as inane a product as humanly possible at the same time. And in the end, it was Triple H who got revenge on Kevin Nash, and it was John Cena who removed John Laurinaitis from power. Thanks for taking care of that, guys. And furthermore,
Where are my WWE ice cream bars?
at the time I'm recording this episode, we're at a weird point in the CM Punk discourse. 17 years after the original Summer of Punk and Ring of Honor, and 11 after WWE's half-hearted attempt, the summer of 2022 ends on an awkward note surrounding the voice of the voiceless, in which once again the line between kayfabe and reality is blurred past the point of recognition. After several months of reports painting Punk's relationship with AEW in a positive light, now all of a sudden there are stories of him being displeased with how things are there. And because of the timing of this and all the parties involved, it leaves everyone under the sun debating whether or not it's for real. But no matter how things shake out, it seems the more things change, the more things stay the same when it comes to Punk, as controversy seems to follow him wherever he goes. Every once in a while I think of how immeasurably different things in the industry might have been had a few things gone a certain way during WWE's Summer of Punk. It seems there had to be some combination of malice and incompetence at play in making it all feel so sour. It was a golden opportunity to win back the fans they'd driven away for so long, and it was squandered like the invasion 10 years before it. I guess in the end, it truly is all about the game.
Hey, don't blame me, Ryan. Like Pop always said, if they piss you off, it's not screw 'em, it's book 'em, then screw 'em.
Whoa, H-Man! Thought we'd never see you here again.
Oh, the ass kicker is back alright, Ryan Lame. Back with a vengeance. Just wanted to remind you that now that I'm fully in charge these days, I can come back and mess with you whenever I want. You've been warned. Smoke bomb! Shit!
Win, lose, or draw, the kid gloves are off. Mask on like Big Hoss McGraw. The influencer, Zane ain't kidding. Chef cooking it up in the kayfabe kitchen. Wrestling with regret. Let's get it. Yeah. What's that set? Maybe you should bottle it. Drink it and spray it on. Get Claude to model it. 8 years in, can't look back. Who else can make the Lord sweatsuits look whack? Wrestling with regret. Let's get it.